Okay, so thank you everybody for coming this evening. If you don't know already, my name's Tom and this is Alana. Now, before we do anything, I think we should get Mark to come and tell you how to get out if there's a fire and where to go to the toilet.
Thank you. Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming tonight. It's great to see all your faces here. If you need a toilet, it's just outside as you came in. The women are on the right and the men's are just down one stairs. There's also an accessible toilet and the key is just at the reception desk. If there's a fire, there's no fire drill plan, so if you hear it, it's the real thing. So just follow the exit sign down the stairs and out of the building and around the front to where Itsu is, and that's our muster point. We're filming tonight, so if you don't want to be on camera, just sit further back from those two white doors and you won't be seen. But yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for coming. I look forward to seeing you at the festival next week. Cheers.
Okay. So first of all, thank you everybody for being a volunteer. If you've been to one of the other meetups this year, a number of these slides will look familiar, but I've changed some of the text. And then at the end, I'm going to reveal the colour of the t-shirts.
The reason we're here. Yeah, I'm going to learn the colour and then just look at some
Okay, so you'll recognise this slide from last time and the time before, and it's the overview of the Mozilla Festival. However, this time... Okay, this is the exact same slide as last time. So Mozilla Festival starts with Mozilla Festival House. It's a collection of events in the MozFest space that don't always fit into the rest of the weekend. It's located at RSA House, which is kind of in the Charing Cross area, just across the road from Embankment. We use the volunteers as kind of an end-to-end volunteer team, so we don't have the specified roles like we do for the rest of the festival. So if you've signed up for MozFest House, what you're looking to expect is to be involved with a bit of everything. So that could be checking people in, it could be helping set up different spaces, supporting sessions, and doing anything that comes up through the week. And the events at MozFest House, just so you're aware, are ticketed separately from the Mozilla Festival weekend. So if you get any questions about that, it is separate tickets for each different session. And then if you want to use MozFest House, there's ticketing for that as well.
Different events have different lanyards. That's one thing to keep in mind as well.
Wristbands.
Same difference.
Then the next thing that happens is the facilitator workshops on the Friday, which is Friday morning at Ravensbourne, and that's facilitators from most of the sessions across the weekend. And we don't tend to provide much volunteer support on that day for the facilitator workshops, but what we do provide support for is helping getting the space ready for the weekend. So that's setting up signs, getting the welcome desks ready, putting together different things across the weekend. And then we move on to our 10th anniversary science fair, which is on the Friday. So at the Friday night, note this year the science fair is not at Ravensbourne. The science fair is at the RSA, and it starts at 6 p.m. It's included in your weekend tickets. As a volunteer, you of course get access to the science fair regardless of whether you're volunteering or not. And we're going to need some volunteers to help us set up and run this. So I think we've got spaces for about 15 volunteers overall to help with the science fair. So if you've marked your availability that you're available on the Friday evening, but it's quite likely that you'll be assigned to this. And just remember that it's at the RSA, and we will remind you. And then we move on to the Mozilla Festival weekend, which is the 8 spaces at Mozilla Festival in Ravensbourne. And that's, we've got a load of different roles which you've signed up for by now. So I'm not going to spend too much time today going through the roles that you've already chosen and signed up for. Okay. And we've got some parties. So Saturday night, we've got a party, and then Sunday, we've got a demo party. Saturday night this year is hosted at the Fable, and we're going to have probably 12 volunteers throughout the evening that will support us with the party on the Saturday night. So if you're specifically interested in helping with that, please do let me know. We didn't include a role for it in the sign-up form. So we're just planning to pick from people that have marked themselves available on the Saturday night. But if you're specifically interested in helping with the party on Saturday night, we need some help checking people in. We need some help running the games floor, and we need some help with some other pieces around that party. Okay.
Go ahead of yourself. The back.
Oh, yeah. And then the Sunday demo party. The Sunday demo party. During the Sunday demo party, we set this up with screen, whatever's needed there. So we do some setup for it. But concurrently, during the Sunday demo party, most of what we're doing as a volunteer team is tearing down the rest of the festival. This is a really good time where not much else is happening, other than on a couple of specified floors. So what we'll end up doing is we'll go around the rest of the festival and start to tear things down, start to bring things down and shut down and be ready for when the festival ends. Yep.
So about the venues. Ravensbourne is 9 floors. It's a university and open space. It's near the O2. North Greenwich is the closest station, and it's super easy to navigate. And the 9 floors aren't that scary because it's kind of half floors. It's a lot of walking, but the stairs aren't too steep, so don't worry.
Wear comfortable shoes.
Yeah, comfortable shoes. Also, there's lifts, but don't bother taking them. So rave access.
Slides aren't progressing.
Oh,
What?
Can you restart it?
What do I
let
do?
me see if I can.
I don't know.
Just keep after me. Keep going without them and let Tom catch up.
We need to see. So for Ravensbourne access, we're there on Thursday to help unpack, and then Friday there's the facilitator workshops that we're going to be hosting.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, thank you.
Can start.
Just click through.
There you go.
Thank you. So yeah, Thursday you need to sign in with Ravensbourne Security. There's no welcome desk, and visitor access cards must be returned on the same day of issue. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we will use your event badge, which is the lanyard that you get. Ravensbourne doesn't give you security passes on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. Probably shouldn't really need one either. If you desperately do, probably come talk to us about that. And this is what the passes will look like. So these ones are no access to weekend.
House and science fair.
Right, so these are house and science fair, so you can't let people in with these badges into the weekend. This is the full weekend badge. You can let them go pretty much anywhere, except for MozFest House during MozFest House hours. The Saturday badge onlys don't let them in on Sunday. The Sunday badges don't let them in on Saturday.
They're very similar.
The thing to note is that there's a number of different badges there, so it's important that when you arrive at the festival, you do sign in for each individual item during the festival. Don't assume that one badge will get you into it.
Will they have to sign in on Saturday and Sunday?
No.
No, you will get the full weekend pass.
Right.
As a volunteer. It's just...
Oh, no, I meant the
No.
people who come. Will they get a separate badge on Saturday and a new badge on Sunday?
No. They will have. They will either have a full weekend badge or they'll have a Saturday or Sunday badge.
Okay.
Though one thing to note this year is that if they sign in at the science fair, I believe it's the case that they will need to check in again on Saturday, but they won't be issued with a new lanyard.
Rave amenities. There's water everywhere, and we'll provide canned water in the volunteer room. The lost property will be at the welcome desk. Is Ravensbourne doing the lost property, or are we doing the lost property this year?
Whoever's at the welcome desk.
Whoever's at the welcome desk.
Okay, so us, I guess. RSA House is 3 floors-ish. It's near Embankment. It's very difficult to learn, and it's weird, to say the least. The rooms are confusing. Half of them flow through to other rooms. We've advised that if you signed up to volunteer for MozFest House, you sign up for at least sort of half a day, so you could spend some time getting used to the actual building. And communication procedures. Going to do this?
Yeah. Okay, this is the majority of what we're going to talk about today. And there's sadly, or not sadly, there is a lot of it. Okay, so the first thing to think about with what you need to know for volunteering is that each shift will have a coordinator assigned to it. So every shift, we'll show you the shifting system in just a little while, but every single shift will have a coordinator assigned. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the only person you can talk to. You can talk to anybody you want to talk to across the weekend. But that will be your normal point of contact. They will be checking in with you, and you are welcome to check in with them at any time during your shift. And for most of the processes that we talk about, this should generally be the first person that you speak to when you've got a question. This is in a really, really weird order. I'm going to come back to those two slides in a little while. Okay, so what we'll run through is we'll run through some of the different procedures across Ravensbourne. If you come to MozFest House, some of these procedures will be different, and you will be briefed on them when you arrive, and you'll also receive an email with a briefing on some of the procedures at MozFest House. But what we'll focus on for now is the Ravensbourne procedures. And so the first one to think about is fire. On hearing the fire alarm at Ravensbourne, I know that it's the nature of being a volunteer that you probably want to help, but it's important to note that the fire marshals are provided by Ravensbourne, and so your job in the case of the fire is to get out. If the fire alarm goes off, there are no drills planned over the weekend, so if the fire alarm goes off, just leave the building. Don't take your stuff with you, and just follow instructions from fire marshals. And if you find a fire, it's the same thing everywhere. So sound the nearest fire alarm to you on your way out, and dial 999. Don't assume that anybody else has dialed 999. Please do just 999. And then for other evacuations, if there were to be any sort of evacuation that isn't a fire, we'll have instructions on that and we'll pass that down to you. Okay, so incidents requiring first aid. There's two scenarios here. The first one is, do you need a medic to come to you, or is a person fit and well to go down to them? The scenario actually is that if a person's safe, comfortable, and okay to walk down to the medics, it will probably be quicker and more efficient if they can walk down. The medics are located on floor 0 most of the time. It's on the ground floor in a first aid room. So if the person's happy walking down, please do just suggest to them, it's probably best if you go for a walk down. If somebody really needs a medic to come up to them, so if they're in a situation where it's not suitable for them to go back down to the medics themselves, then please switch to channel 5 on the radios, which we'll talk about in just a second, and ask for the medic, tell them where you are and why you need them, and they will come to you and provide assistance. The other thing to think about is that if a person's seriously injured, please don't move them, please don't do anything like that. Just leave them in the situation they're in unless it's unsafe, and wait until help arrives. If it's an emergency, again, call 999. If somebody needs an ambulance, then please call for an ambulance and escalate that to your coordinator. The reason being is that we need to let security know so the ambulance can get in. We do have children on site at Ravensbourne and across the festival as a whole. There's people of many different ages through the festival. Under 16s require a parent or guardian to come with them, but don't necessarily have to be accompanied throughout the entire festival. We have staff on site responsible for youth safety, so please leave them to be responsible for youth safety. If you've got questions or you need information, then you can directly speak to Emrys, who's responsible for youth, or you can come through one of us, your coordinators, and we'll pass it on to Emrys, who will be able to assist you. And the young people, just so you're aware, aren't just restricted to the youth zone. Young people that come to the festival are free to go around the rest of the festival and learn around everything that's happening everywhere. Which leads on nicely to the lost children procedure. If you come across a child that is lost, so they're quite young, they've lost their parents, or they make themselves known to you that they're lost, then the right thing to do is literally ask them to come with you to the nearest info desk. Please use the info desk that's on the floor you're on and go through the most open route possible. And the info guru on that desk, many of you in here will be info gurus, I'm sure. And so as an info guru, the thing you'll do in that situation is you'll speak to one of us as your coordinators. So you'll make a radio call to us, tell us that you've got a lost child with you, and we will radio through to Emrys or Sarah, and one of them will come down to you and pick up the child, and we've got a process for how we handle that from there. The important thing is to ask them to stay with you at the info desk and to just stay there. If there's anything else that you need help with youth safety, then the right thing to do is just ask. Just a couple of notes on the youth zone. We do ask, one of the things that you might note as a volunteer is that when you're walking around, all the doors in the youth zone should be left open to all of the session rooms and through the corridors and things like that. So as you're walking around that space, doors do get knocked closed and things like that. So if you see a door closed, just open it again. It just creates that safe space for us. We do have people walking around checking in on sessions, so people that have been DBS checked and are part of the youth zone. So they will be there doing that. And all of this, again, is led by Emrys, who you will find there. And if you're interested in who Emrys is and what he looks like, by the way, if you look on the Mozilla Festival website, there's a team page and Emrys is on there, so you can see his face and know what you're looking for. And that's the case with most people, by the way. If you're unsure of a name of somebody that works at Mozilla Festival or is involved in Mozilla Festival in some way, and also for all of the Wranglers, for all of the spaces, all of their names and faces are on the website under the team page, so do feel free to have a look. Pass over to Ron, a little one.
We skip radio.
Oh, okay.
And Slack.
May I ask a question about the previous slide in the youth zone?
Yep.
So if the session is taking place and we see that the door is closed, we should open it. But the person who's running the session, if they turn around and say to us, we would like the door closed.
Okay, so the answer to that is yes, you should open it. If they turn around to you and ask for the door to be closed, can you escalate that to us or to Emrys? Because that shouldn't be the case, and we'll fix that.
Thank you.
Let me go back to radio comms, and we will talk a little bit about communications. That one.
Got it.
Okay. So radios will be in a few places across the weekend. As a volunteer, not every single volunteer is going to be issued with a radio all of the time. The main places that as volunteers you will find radios is on the info desks and at the welcome desk. There will also be staff walking around that have radios, so production staff and some people on the volunteer team, and AV Dan. So there's a few rules for the radios. The first thing is that generally you will be on the volunteers channel, which is channel 4. All of this is labeled on the radio itself, by the way, so don't be daunted by trying to remember channel numbers or anything like that. It's all there for you. So most of the time you'll be on the volunteers channel. What that means is that you'll be able to communicate with us as your coordinators, the other info desks, but you won't necessarily have direct access to speak with production. There's not really many cases where you would want to be directly communicating with production unless you've been told otherwise. So just raise stuff through us and we will raise it to production. And that's the correct pathway to follow in most cases. The only time that you might want to change channel is, as we discussed shortly ago, is first aid. If you need a medic to attend a situation, then please switch to channel 5 or just turn it 1 and you'll see the word first aid show up, and they will be able to assist you directly. Other than that, the only things to think about radios is we keep it to short, brief conversations. We don't have long conversations. If it's more than a couple of exchanges, the answer is probably to go and find the person or use Slack. This is for getting an instant response to a question or concern that you have.
So people can hear what you say.
Sorry?
People can hear what you're saying.
Oh yeah, that's an important one actually. So whatever you say on the radio, assume everybody can hear it. The radios are on the welcome desk, they're out in public, so anything you say can be heard by anyone by default. So don't assume that this is just volunteers that's going to hear what you say. The other thing we do have is Slack communications. So I think, has everybody received an invitation to Slack by now? No. Okay, so I'm getting about 50% yes and 50% no. So I will send out a new Slack invite today or tomorrow morning, depending what time.
Are you sending it via email or how are we receiving that?
You'll get it by email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'll send an email out with a link to join Slack. We use that before, during, and after the festival. So, if you've got questions beforehand, please shoot them in there. And it's not just restricted to volunteering as well. All of the spaces are on Slack. All of the production staff are on Slack. There's a general channel. So any questions you've got about attending or volunteering, Slack is normally the best place to get a response on that. And also, the only rules of Slack really is, unless you really want to message everybody, don't use at here or at channel, and also to follow our normal community participation guidelines, which we'll talk about in just a little while. But besides that, Slack we keep as a pretty open platform, and you can use it for chatter or serious questions.
going.
There you go. That's really nice.
Oh yeah. So it'd be nice if everyone kept the festival as safe as possible. If you see something that needs to be fixed, please just fix it. So if you see like a cable dangling, use some tape to tape it down. If people have just left things turned on, like soldering irons, turn them off. Don't want fires. If people are doing dangerous things, stop them or just advise them strongly not to do that. Look out for any obvious hazards and damaged cables. If it's easy to fix, just go ahead and fix it. If it's not, ask for some help or radio us. And, for festival safety, just be respectful. There's the participation guidelines that should have been sent out to everyone already, and it's probably in the link for the registration for the shifting. If you want to report any negative behavior, use the email here. And there's alcohol served at the festival. Don't drink too much. If you see one of your colleagues getting a little bit too merry, maybe try and make them drink some water. Like, everyone wants to have fun, but don't overdo it. Look out for everyone else. No, more for volunteering. Do you want to do the shifting demo?
Okay, we'll do a shifting demo and hope it works. Okay, so if you've volunteered in previous years, you will remember a variety of different systems. You may remember Google Sheets. You may remember Engel System. And you may remember Flying Unicorn. This year we're using none of them. This year we're using ZenKit. ZenKit is also
Random words.
ZenKit is a generic platform that we're also using for scheduling the Mozilla Festival sessions and other things around the festival this year. So we're not just using it for the volunteer program, we're using it elsewhere in the festival as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to load up ZenKit and give you a bit of a tour. Yeah. 1 second, I'm just going to stop sharing while I load the page. Secret.
Show us the colour of the t-shirt.
Secret.
That would be really smart.
You could turn on the catch mic and just stick it on the podium so you can just talk to that.
But I'll have no purpose then.
Oh.
Does it stand up?
Just hold that one.
I guess I'll hold this one.
Oh, you have such a deep voice.
Okay, this excitingly is ZenKit. So when you, okay, I've got. Okay. So ZenKit is, it looks a little bit like this. However, it will actually, when you log in, look a little bit more like this.
Probably get away with that on the podium if you don't want to hold it.
Could you zoom in a bit?
Yeah, it's pretty small, isn't it? Can you see that a bit better?
Yeah, my lady's back.
Oh, good.
I think you just know how.
Okay. Okay, so with regards to ZenKit, when you log in, you'll see a screen a little bit like this. What you'll be able to do is you'll be able to click on this little button here, and it will give you all of the days of the festival. So if we go on to Saturday, okay, I think the filters, we're having some problems with the filters at the moment, but that will be fixed by the time you get a link at the end of the week. So the on ZenKit, what you'll be able to see is you'll be able to see a list of sessions, and on each session you will see a list of volunteers assigned just underneath here. Nobody's assigned anything at the moment, so we can't demonstrate that too well. But what you can do is you can go in and you can search for shifts that are just assigned to you. So the way you do this, and I'll send you a document on how to do this, is you go onto the main table view, and if you go into here and you do a search for volunteers assigned, and then find yourself. There's only one person assigned to anything at the moment, which is Cornelia. So I'm going to use that one.
Direct all questions at you.
Sorry, Cornelia.
Yes, I said I would come at 7:40.
Yeah. Breaking news.
So here is the web cakes.
Okay, so when you load up this view and you've gone into here and you've entered yourself as a volunteer assigned, you will literally see a list of all the shifts you're expected to come to. If you go through this and you notice any shifts that you can't make for whatever reason, though we are taking into account all of the shifting times that you've given us already, but if, for whatever reason circumstances change, just let us know as soon as possible. Nothing is completely rigid. We can change everything when needed. And what you'll see on here is you'll see the time of the shift, day of the shift, and also whether it's Saturday, Sunday, or whatever. And you will see, if you click onto the shift, you may also see some notes in here. But realistically, there isn't much to note about this other than for all of the shifts, other than the ones that say Moz House, you will be reporting to Ravensbourne and you'll be coming up to the volunteer room unless you're told otherwise. So for every shift that you see on here, if you come to Ravensbourne and come to the volunteer room, that's where you'll start your shifts off. If it says Moz House, then it will be at Moz House at the RSA. But otherwise, it's at Ravensbourne. There's a few other things you can do within here. So again, if you go into the Saturday and Sunday, you can see all of the different shift times and things like that. And you can also see the number of volunteers we require for something and the number of volunteers that have been assigned. So if you decide, for example, you'd really like to try something else and you see a slot available, for example, do feel free to just let us know that you want to do something. We're pretty open with the shifting. We can make changes and we can make amendments and we can add you to things and remove you from things. So please feel free to let us know if you want anything or don't want anything.
Where do we let you know?
By email.
Email or Slack?
Email or Slack, anything.
You can comment also in Vanquish.
Dun, dun, dun.
Can our volunteers comment in
No,
that?
I'm marking for me then. Ignore me.
More on shifting, we've sent out the application form to sign up to what shift you want to do. So everyone should complete that, and we will only issue tickets if you've completed that.
Has anybody not received that email with the registration form, by the way?
But if somebody purchased tickets, I didn't have high hopes. I didn't believe that I would be able to become a volunteer, and I purchased the ticket already.
Okay. If you send us an email,
okay.
Is that? Yep, we'll refund your ticket.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
perfectly fine. Okay, so that is ZenKit. You'll be nice to see that it is.
Is the Monday to Thursday event on here as well?
Yes, all of the shift. That's a really good question, actually. All of the shifting this year is on here. So you will see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. If you're volunteering on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, please pay extra note as to whether the shift is at Ravensbourne or at the RSA. So just have a double check of that. And then the other thing to note is that on Saturday, if you're volunteering at the party, that will start at Ravensbourne, but we'll move elsewhere because we'll have to go to the party for your shift. And the party is at the Fable in Holborn. So if that's not okay, please let us know. If I don't get many volunteers jump up and shout they want to volunteer at the party, I will just assign people. And if it's not okay, let us know. Jane?
One of the conditions about people who purchase tickets, do they automatically get to go to the party? Because I remember having an ongoing argument with somebody last year who was too late to get a ticket for the party, and she absolutely let me have it about it.
Yep. Okay. So last year the situation was the wristband situation. I believe this year anybody.
You can fit 700 people at the party?
And it's just you show up, isn't
You
it?
just show up.
Yep. So if we hit 700, it will be 1 in, 1 out kind of thing, I assume.
We've never hit more than that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, great.
So we won't hit 700. So just show up, and everybody can
Do
go.
the people who bought tickets,
Yep.
they automatically get to go to the party,
As
and
long
they have to get a wristband first?
they don't have to get a wristband.
Okay.
As long as they've got a weekend ticket or a Saturday ticket. If they've got a Sunday only or a science fair only or a MozFest house ticket, then that won't entitle them. But if
Okay.
it's a Saturday or an all weekend, then yeah, absolutely. They just need their name badge and they have to bring their name badge. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we talk a little bit more about shifting? No? Okay. I'm just going to bring this back up. To give you some time frames, thank you for being a really excellent mic boom. The assignments for MozFest House, I will get those done.
Screen's
Oh, it's stuck again. I had to stop the share and start again.
Turn it on again. It's the future.
Okay. So you'll be pleased to know that the assignments for MozFest House, which is from Monday until Friday, those will all be out tomorrow night. When I say night, it could be 11:59 p.m. when it's finished. But tomorrow at some point, you will be able to see that, and I will send an email out to everybody that suggested that they're available for house, letting you know, one, whether we've assigned you to some shifts. It's quite likely that if you volunteered for house, you will be assigned at least a shift. And I will send you a link to the schedule as well. Vegas.
When you mean sign up for Mozilla House, you mean just you've selected the days when you were available?
Yeah, so if you remember correctly, there were two things on the registration form.
Oh, okay.
There was a date, and then there was a question that said, do you want to volunteer for MozFest House? So it was there as well. If you've put down Monday to Friday, you're available every day, but you haven't ticked the MozFest House button, I might email you and ask whether that was what you intended. Because I think there are a few of those, and I think you probably just missed the button. So the assignment for the weekend is the same time frame as every year. They will be early next week. They won't be Thursday at 3 p.m. like last year. They will be. We'll be getting them done. We're aiming actually to have them done Sunday midday. But I don't want to promise you that. So I would expect to hear something from us on Monday or Tuesday. And again, just to reiterate, unless told otherwise, please just go straight to the volunteer room and we'll check you in for each shift individually from the volunteer room and then take you to where you're going to volunteer. So if it says in level 2 info desk, for example, please don't just go to the level 2 info desk, come to the volunteer room first and we'll brief you from there.
What about things like goodie bags? Are there going to be goodie bags again this year?
So we don't have goodie bags as such. We do have two things. They're both.
We have reusable coffee cups.
Yeah, so the reusable coffee cups, we won't be handing those out at registration like we did with the goodie bags. They will be coming from, people will collect those from the coffee stations around the venue to reduce waste essentially. And then the other thing that we have this year is a MozFest book. So this is a book exploring MozFest over the last 10 years. I don't know if I've already mentioned, but this is the 10th anniversary of MozFest. So we're celebrating that with this book. And you can expect to find some things about volunteers in there. And do have a little look around the festival with regards to the book, because there's some opportunities for contribution and changes and things like that. So have a look around and have a think about that as well. Harry?
You keep mentioning where the volunteer room. Where is the volunteer room?
Is that on the next slide? It's on a slide.
Good. Quick question about shifting.
Yep.
If we're not shifted for a thing during the day, are we still welcome to go to the volunteer room and just be like general help?
Yep. We're more than happy for you to come and hang out at the volunteer room. We always, as well, are completely happy if you want to come to us, tell us that you're available, put on a t-shirt and go for a wander and have a look around, you know. But also what I would encourage you to do is spend some time going to sessions and enjoying the festival.
So, pro tip for going to sessions, just change out of your volunteer shirt and become invisible for a bit, because even in sessions, the facilitator might come up to you and be like, hey man, need some post notes, stuff like that. So just to kind of just enjoy the festival for a bit.
Don't mind helping.
Another thing I would note is, I've said it a million times, but the shifting isn't completely rigid. So if you go to if you discover on Saturday morning that on Saturday afternoon there's a session that you just really, really want to go to, but you've got a volunteer shift, don't just say no to the session. Do come and have a chat with us, because we will see what we can do. We'd really want you to go and explore the festival, enjoy it as well. So let us know what we can do to help that. Let's talk about refreshments.
So there's refreshments everywhere. You will not go hungry. There'll be MozFest house is catered for, so I'm guessing there'll be food around for everyone. Over the weekend, the whole weekend is catered for everyone, so there'll be food for the guests and extra food for the volunteers for unusual hours. I think we normally go for like pizza or wraps and stuff like that. In the shifting form, we asked you to fill in your dietary requirements. If you're allergic to anything, we won't kill you. We'll just try and facilitate for everyone. There'll be drinks in the volunteer area and around the venue. The volunteer room. The volunteer room used to be on the first floor.
A quick one. The Sunday there'll be cake all over the table, not spread out all over the table. There'll be cake available because it's my birthday.
There'll be cake. Now, where will the cake be? It'll be on the 9th floor. It used to be on the 1st for previous festivals. Now it's on the 9th. It's right next to the coffee and the hot food, so there's like zero excuse not to eat. It's also close to the supplies and the production room. And there is a room where you could keep your stuff in, and it'll be locked and nothing will get stolen.
No guarantee.
No guarantee, but less likely to be stolen or lost or reported.
I don't think I've ever heard of something being stolen from there, but we also won't sign a piece of paper to say.
Hopefully the t-shirts won't get stolen.
No, they do every year.
No, one year it was really bad. One year we got to MozFest on like Sunday or Saturday and there was nothing. No shirts. Any questions? This is the end of the presentation, more or less.
Take my shirt.
Nobody to throw it to.
No questions?
What about setting up on Friday night?
There'll be several shifts, so some setup will be needed for the science fair in the RSA, and there'll be other shifting needed in the festival. Tom's gonna show the Zenkit thing. That's Saturday.
Because normally spaces would be able to set up until after the science fair, right? There's some spaces.
It's going to basically be set up at the same time. We'll need volunteers at Rave and at the RSA.
Yeah, so Zenkit isn't showing the shifts because we're having some issues with filters, which we will try and fix. But the deal on Friday is that from about 1 p.m. we have shifts at the RSA to set up the science fair, and then at Ravensbourne we have shifts all day to help with registration in the morning through to helping sessions and spaces set up their spaces through the day.
So right here on Zenkit, if you don't filter by day, we've got a couple of AV roles for Friday. So I'm assuming this would be, some of these would be at Ravensbourne and other ones would be at RSA. The same with General Hand. General Hand will definitely be at Ravensbourne.
Dark winter.
Yeah, so I think the public view here is missing the Moz House label on some of those, but it will be there by the time you get it tomorrow. Tomorrow for Moz House.
Oh no.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Regarding the
the public nature of our names and everything, how would that actually appear?
Okay, so
that sounds like an interesting.
Fine. So the way we settled on doing that is when you completed. Have you done a shifting registration?
On Reg, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so we sent out a shifting registration form to everybody. Yeah. So on that form, we asked for your. We gave you an opportunity to enter a public name, and I think if you read it, what it says is exactly this. If you do not give us a public name, we will use your first name and your last initial. If you provide us with a public name, we will use the public name that you have given us. And there is a tick box at the end to say that you've done that. If you've missed that, before this goes public, in follow-up to this, I'll be sending an email to verify that you've given us everything you want us to know. So you'll receive an email confirming everything on that form before we publicise this.
So essentially, an attendee, by looking at the schedule, will also be able to see the volunteers that are available in the space.
Oh, so an attendee.
That's what I'm trying to refer to when you say public. Is that like a ticket holder would see that?
So an attendee simply won't have the link in the first place.
Okay.
The attendee schedule is completely separate in a different Zenkit link. Any more questions?
Thank you, Tom.
Will there be a looker set up for attendees? Because on a previous couple of years, we've had requests saying, where do I store my stuff? I've traveled from X. Is there anywhere secure?
Mark, do we have a cloakroom?
That would have been a better word.
Not that we advertise, but if someone does come with light luggage, but at the same time, we advise people not to bring large.
Yep. Okay, so the answer is, I guess.
No, but sometimes.
No, if somebody really needs it, then.
If they've got like a lot of baby kit with them,
if they've got a lot of kit with them, for example, then let speak to a coordinator and we'll speak to production and arrange it. Any other questions? I mean, there's one big question.
Last line.
When does the login for what's this thing called again?
Zenkit.
Thank you. When does the login for that go out?
For MozFest House tomorrow. If you're not signed up for MozFest House, it will technically be available to you, but you won't have the link, so you won't be able to get to it. So tomorrow for MozFest House by 11:59 p.m. Where's my PowerPoint gone? And the final thing is. Well, what I can tell you is that the MozFest House t-shirts are orange.
Yeah. I can wear last year. We did orange.
Yeah, they're orange again. MozFest House is orange again. So if you've got orange MozFest House t-shirts, please bring them. No, I'm joking. Please don't bring them. The new t-shirts are different in design. They are orange, but they're a different design, so don't bring them. And as for the main festival weekend t-shirts, we will confirm that on the day.
They're blue. That's peach.
That is an orange And this is the festival t-shirt.
Sea blue.
Very similar to last year, actually.
So we go.
But much softer than last year.
Oh, okay. What's on the back? Is it just got hashtag?
What's help?
Oh, so nice stuff. Kind of aqua neck oil with salmon.
Feel the salmon water.
You want to have a closer look? They're here.
This concludes our presentation.
Have we got any questions about volunteering at MozFest?
Questions about life?
Questions about MozFest?
What's happening next year?
Surprise.
Next year we are moving MozFest. This is our last MozFest.
We've been evicted.
It will be in Europe.
I think there might be some rumors going around during the festival, but we don't even know for sure. So
Nobody knows.
And that's not us lying.
I don't even think Sarah knows yet. Same. The answer is Europe, probably in an English-speaking country.
That's good enough.
Everything.
All of them. They want to do free.
No? Or not? Okay.
All right. Talk, drink, have fun. Bye.
Oh, yeah. Fuck it, hell, you're doing it. Well, you actually did want to play for it.
The material is a lot nicer. I was like this. Sorry, I was stuck downstairs. I sent someone a email, but was there anything important? Yeah, okay. Private presentation. Okay.
Yeah, fine. So we just went through what Mozilla Festival is.
Okay. Okay, that I know.
Did I get shot? Yeah, for the last time. I won't be the last time. I'm going to go to the next one. Mention the right next door. Yeah, it'll be in French, right? German?
I think that's us done now. If you haven't sort of streamed already, thank you so much for your help. Bye. You can hear me? If not, I'll drop a call. Thank you so much. Bye bye.